Good morning, friends. Well, it's morning here on the left coast anyways, and I'm talking to my very good friend on the East Coast, Lisa Starr at Win Business. How are you, my friend?
I'm wonderful. It's great to be here with you, Alan.
I know we were talking about this. I love my background, but it looks like I'm sitting in a planetarium. But
Well, it's kind of cool, though.
you gotta mix it up and do some different things.
That's right.
So before you and I started, we had this conversation that talked about one of the single big subjects always in our industry, and it's retail, right? You hear it every day also.
Every day.
There is an endless amount of things we can talk about, but let's start with, I want to talk about gross margins and front of the house retail and how critical that is. So you start.
So as a consultant, I'm asked all the time about what retail should we carry and how do we pay our people to sell retail? And then I hear, our people never sell retail. Should we pay them more commission? And of course, that's not the answer either. In 35 years in our industry, I've learned that people either sell or they don't. And that's not a reason not to have retail. You must have it, but you can't assume that because you pay 10% commission that they'll all sell it. They won't. You'll have your certain providers that like it and sell it and others that won't. So you have to have a more layered strategy to move your retail sales number up.
Okay.
At the same time, we know that we can make a lot more money from retail per square foot than we can in service. So we can't forget about it.
So a couple things you just said. First of all, you have to do them both, right? You can't decide just to be a retail boutique and give up on spa services,
right?
And vice versa. Number two, you're talking about layered pay plans. So we have to get away from just paying one way because we have to look at retail differently, correct?
I believe so. I mean, what I've found is that, as I mentioned, paying 10% commission, which is the standard for branded products, is not necessarily a motivator. If you have an Esty who's selling $2,000 a week, okay, that's an extra $200. But someone that sells a bottle of shampoo every other day, what's the difference? So I found better results when we tie retail performance into other metrics that help people advance through their pay plan. So my pay plans are typically tiered, and you have to perform in a variety of ways to move up, and retail is one of them. And then we tend to get a little more attention.
Man, okay, we could be doing these all day long, and I know we don't have time for them. So now let me cover two things you said, me and my cheat notes, right?
Good.
You have to be able to measure performance. Address that for a quick minute, will you?
Well, we need to know who's doing what, retail or service, and you, owners and managers, need to know, okay, who's my solid person? What are they generating per hour, per day, per client? What is their retail service ratio? And they need to know those numbers. And that's always my test as a consultant when I come in. If I ask one of your staff members, hey, what was your retail ratio last month? And if they don't know, then I realize we're not keeping them up to date on their performance the way we need to in order to get it. It's not a thing we can cross our fingers and hope to have. You have to drive that.
Okay, the second, now there's a part B to that, which we'll come back to in a sec, but you have to have this conversation, certainly when you're hiring someone, because and I hate the word job description. I want to call it a position description. Job sounds too cheap, and we're not hiring cheap people. But in the position description, it should clearly lay out your responsibility as a therapist in managing and doing and selling retail.
Well, totally, Alan. You bring up a great point. So many places still don't have position descriptions. So it's written down, it's in the ad, it's in the first conversation, and you have to interview for it. You can't just say to someone, do you sell retail? Because they say, yeah, I do. End of story, right? So you have to pose situations and questions. They get to learn if they do. And then guess what? Once you've hired them, you have to keep doing it. We can't just say, oh, well, that's it. Goodbye. Here's your retail commission. Go have at it. I mean, every quarter, at least, there needs to be some activity around the importance of retailing, role-playing, product knowledge courses by the vendors, and all of it together works to move your retail needle forward.
Okay, now I'm going to drill back on something you said before about retail ratio. We always call this a service to retail or retail to service ratio. So You have to measure it. And what should people expect in our industry? Do they think they should have a 5% or a 15% or a 50% sales to service?
Well, that is the million-dollar question. And let me have a part A and part B answer. First of all, when you're measuring, most software and businesses measure retail to service ratio. That's an industry standard. I like to look at the retail to total sales ratio. I like to shift that emphasis off of retail being the poor cousin of service and say to a provider, you're generating $2,000 a week. I expect 20% of that to come from retail and other 80 from service. It's just a different mindset. It doesn't really change the number, but you have to have that measurement in place for them to do that. Or like I said before, it won't happen. They need familiarity at all times with where they are on that performance scale.
We're going to do a part B, retail, because I have 6 more questions that relate to this. Our viewers want to hear. For people watching, stand by. You should reach out to Lisa Starr. She is a wealth of information in our industry. All her contact information will be coming up right after the back of the screen. Lisa, thank you a ton. I always appreciate your time to share with our members as well.
Happy to do so. Thanks for having me, Alan.
Bye.